Hey guys, this is a knife by the always ambiguously named Ruike knife company. Apparently it's Ruike, but hey, that might change tomorrow. This is a frame locking flipper knife on the larger side by this company that is the flashlight arm of the torch company Phoenix. So there you go. They have chosen a factory in China to make them a bunch of knives, which I guess is a thing that you do if you're a torch company. So there you go, there we are. So this is a very large, well, I'm not saying very large, but for me, I call knives about this size large. For some size comparison, let's roll it in next to another, fairly large knife, the zero tolerance 0220. So yeah, it's actually it might even be a little tiny bit longer. So yeah, it's at least the same size. So it is kind of a larger knife. The best thing about these Ruike knives is that they're very, very well made and they're very good at what they sort of set out to do. Some cheaper flippers, and this is still a cheaper flipper, they fail on certain aspects such as the lockup or the flipping action. But Ruike, whatever the name is, has never really let me down in terms of having just good action and overall good construction. They are sort of my go-to recommended El Cheapo Chinese knife brand. So there you go, and they certainly hold that point. Cedric, be quiet, mate. No one cares. Sorry, just telling the dog off. So yeah, they're still maintaining that point in my book with this blade. It's a bit different from what I've had from them before. It's kind of gone and fleshed out the handle a little bit. The P801, I think, was the first Ruike knife that I reviewed, and yeah, it's excellent and is probably one of the best buys still going. I picked up mine for about $35. This is a bit pricier. This is the 65 to 70 Australian dollar mark. So I guess they're sort of probably putting a bit more effort into certain aspects of it to perhaps warrant a slight price increase, but really it is still 14C28N, which is definitely becoming the new wonder kid of budget steels. Hopefully it's going to run that nasty old 8CR13 MOV out of town for your pocket knife steels anyway, because it seems to have been widely proliferated from Sandvik now. They must have got a new director who said, hey, let's sell our steel to everyone at a good price until the Chinese knives wear it. So that's what's happening now. Yay, capitalism, right? So yeah, there's wearing that and the stainless steel as a handle, but yeah, the price has gone up probably, I'd almost say significantly from where these knives started out at as 35 to 40 Australian dollar knives. Now they're selling models for $70 to $80. So I don't know, is there a slow creep up? Are they going to become Kaiser? Who knows? Anyway, this is still a good knife, and I think it is still a pretty good buy for, even for $70, you get a very solid frame lock flipping knife with a few features. Let's go into the features now. So you get a harpoon style 3.5-inch blade with pretty much non-stop belly. Now if that suits you, then that's fine. I prefer to have a little bit of flat in my knives, even this, which isn't ideal because it's a recurve. If you pretend that bit's not there, it's got a nice flat just here. I like that part of a knife, I really do enjoy that, whereas this doesn't quite have it, but then it is really quite nitpicky to take too many points off it. It's just not my absolute preferred blade design, but there you go. It certainly looks cool though, doesn't it? Harpoon tips, is there a practical purpose for them? I don't know. I guess if you were stabbing a whale or throwing the knife into the hide of a whale, the harpoon tip might stop it from falling out when the whale dives under the water. So that's probably a good use for this folding knife if you are thinking of putting it into that. If you're thinking of hunting whales with a folding knife, this might be the folding knife for you, and I wish you all the success in the world because I think you're going to need it. But so that's the general blade feature. It is a pretty much 100% flat ground blade with the exception of a secondary flat point here and the harpoon obviously there. So I guess if you're using guided systems, you can use this flat point to therefore hold onto the blade so you don't need to micro adjust your arm to account for the flat grind not being held correctly. So that's a thing, I guess, that's the thought. Your knuckle is pretty close to the cutting edge, which I like, but obviously protected by the flipper. I always like to have my knuckle close to the cutting edge, so this one's a little bit further away, not terrible. Knife I often criticise for that is the Rat series. I just feel like there's this huge gap between there and there, and same with the Cold Steel Code 4. So that's about as far as I like in my knives. I feel like I've got a good deal of control still there as well. Features. We've got a kind of like a lock, which I always think is this answer to a problem that doesn't really exist. But then I've heard people have accounts of, you know, really needing that at some point. Or I had a guy comment on my funny cold steel lock video the other day, you know, telling me off for making fun of the triad lock, which is part and parcel of poking light fun at cold steel. You get really intense people who don't get it. But he said that, you know, he cuts cardboard every day, and if it wasn't for the triad lock, he would have no fingers left. You know, something similar to that. So, you know, good, I guess, if that's for you, then that's for you, and that's awesome. And it doesn't really harm the knife having it there, and it's less obtrusive than the line steel rotor block, because I often found myself accidentally activating that. Whereas this, you actually have to, it's got a bit of a detent to it, so you actually have to click it across. So no problems there at all. It's a stainless steel lock, so it doesn't need any of the you know, lock face protector or anything like that, whatever they're called, those little attachable bits. And this acts as an over travel stop as well, so that's pretty cool there too. It's got the good Ruike or real steel or whatever pocket clip. This is the pocket clip that certain factory is obviously putting on all their knives. I think, pretty sure it's the Sanrenmu factory that's making all these knives. They must just put these companies' blades on their good machines to get really good results. So it's got the good pocket clip from these factories there, just nice and deep carry, a little bit sticking out. And then it's got this like G10 or plastic back spacer here, which is nice. And it's even got like the little thought of it, I don't know if I can bring this up, it actually dives into the handle scales before, you know, so it travels down, so it's not a catch point at all, that's kind of cool. A bit of extra thought that's gone in there as well. So there you have it. And then looking at this display side, I guess, if you're displaying this knife, it has got a bit of like secondary milling on the handle to make it a bit more 3D. And people often cite this as like an extra point of price increase as well, because I guess they need to set a separate machine to go buzz and, you know, belt sands this part down. So yeah, maybe adds a few cents in production as well. So anyway, we'll have been running in some usage clips of this for the entire review, but overall the blade slices really well. It's a little bit on the thick side, so it's as thick as the ZT blade, which is a 4mm thick blade, so it's maybe slightly under that, maybe 3.8 or something. I'll have an image with all the specs on it for this knife, so I don't have to read them out. The only thing I'll talk about is the weight a little bit. It's a little bit on the heavier side, which doesn't bother me at all. Like, as I always say, I'm more fussed about the dimension my knives take up in my pocket, and this one's still not too wide this way. It's 158 grams, so that's about as much as, well, this one's a bit heavier, so the ZT's 176, so I reckon this was about as much as like a, what was the knife I measured the other day? Can't remember, but say if you think of a Swiss Army knife as, you know, 100 grams, it might give you some idea. So it's about a Swiss Army knife and a half of weight. So let's do a size comparison with the Swiss Army knife as well. It's always a good point of reference, because everyone's had a Swiss Army knife, and this is the standard sized Swiss Army knife. So there you go. As you can see, it's a big, full gripped knife. And what else have I got? All my knives are in my room, and my wife's asleep from night shift, so I'm not going to sneak in there and get knives out. That wouldn't be beneficial to my future. This is a Gerber center drive next to it, and this is again the ZT0220 next to it. Kind of a similar-ish knife. I mean, obviously, apart from the obvious differences, this is a really similar knife. What a stupid thing to say, but there you go. Same kind of thought behind it. So remember, this one it's actually quite efficient with the weight, because it's about the same size as this. Remembering, this is titanium, which is about 30% lighter than stainless steel, and weighs more still. So hey, they've done pretty good making a knife this size out of stainless steel without having it too heavy. So they've probably done a fair bit of extensive milling inside as well. Last thing I'll talk about is the action and the flipper tab. It's got a really good little flipper tab. They've chopped it off there, so it's not all sharp and pocket peckery, as my buddy Nick always says, which is cool. Still just fine. It's got a great combination of good detent and smooth bearing action. These rakes always have a bit of a swoosh sound to them, which you can get out for a little while with oil, but then it comes back. So it doesn't affect the action at all. The action is super silky smooth, and it drops shut, all that sort of cool stuff. But yeah, it does kind of have a bit of a swishy metallic swoosh sound when you crank it open. I don't know if you can hear that, but there you go. So there is that, but it's just an excellent lower cost flipper. The steel in this one, in my steel test, holds an edge for about as long as VG10, which is fine for a knife of this price, and really it's fine for anyone. Come on, like unless you're absolutely cutting carpet all day, unless you can't sharpen and it makes you really nervous needing to know you have to sharpen your knife soon, this level of edge retention, in my opinion, is just fine for your actual use. I know I seem like it might be a steel snob from all the testing I do. That's purely just for the love of numbers, really. In terms of using steel, because I can sharpen okay on my Tormek, I really don't mind if steel doesn't last super long, as long as it isn't going dull in a single job. So what bothers me, say with HCR13 MOVs, I'll often be doing like a single job, like breaking down a single fridge box or something like that, and it'll be dull like mid-job, and that's what I don't like. VG10, 14C28, never really have that sort of problem with, so no problems at all. It's about the average, about the acceptable level of steel. I would start at this and kind of hope for better, but there you go, still very acceptable. Overall, it's a great combination of price, size, weight, design, I think, and also steel and materials as well. So I think this is a good one. I think I recommend it. I think I like it. It's if it's your bag. Some people are just, nah, I'm not getting into these new wave of Chinese knives, and that's totally fine. I mean, I guess it's capitalism. It's going to be where all of our big companies end up going. Probably, I mean, apart from the ones that have made in US or made in somewhere else as a badge of honor, most companies are going to have a budget wing of anything that's made in China. It doesn't trouble me too much, but some people it does trouble, and it's kind of gets a bit of a hot topic sometimes, so I won't really go into it anymore. I do like these kind of brands a bit better than like the GearBest kind of brands, where you have to go on like these really big, complex, weird sites like AliExpress, and I guess I said GearBest. Although they're a little bit pricier, they come with nicer packaging, and because it's backed by a proper company like Phoenix, I'm pretty sure you'd have a bit more luck if something went wrong and you really did need to change it back. But then you're always protected here by Australian consumer law as well. You should look up your rights if you ever are worried about faulty products and whatnot, because Australian consumer law protects you for the first year, I think. Pretty much, if the knife buggers up without you buggering it up, you can pretty much just deal directly with the vendor. But anyway, look that up yourself if you are worried about the warranty side of these kind of blades. But anyway, that is probably all I have to say about it. I hope you've enjoyed seeing and experiencing this knife through my eyes, and I'll see you all in the next video. Alright dudes, catch ya!